My name is Morton. Oh, sorry. I'll be giving you a presentation on Zabbix for MSPs. I just want to outline, I'll be focusing on more what it can actually do in terms of showing you visualizations and information about the network and items and values in there. So I started my journey with Zabbix in, education, 2008, computer networking, and then my master's in 2012 at the University of Kent. I'm very network focused, a bit on the side of infrastructure, but predominantly networking. I then went on to manage a small childcare organisation, which covered the whole of the UK. They had 14 sites, and we didn't have any centralised tool that would allow me to troubleshoot the networks and infrastructure already in place. I looked at quite a few different tools and I compared them against Zabbix. They didn't quite have the full comprehensive feature set that Zabbix had. I first set up a basic server at one of the sites and used a VPN to access, multiple VPNs to access each of the sites. Then 2016, I became a lead network engineer at a small IT break-fix company as opposed to managed service provider. The difference being, I'd say, we would only fix problems once they'd happened and once they'd occurred. Whereas in the MSP, we focus on finding out all the problems first and then trying to patch them before anything really goes wrong. So currently, they were using a proprietary tool. We'd met the license limits, and the company had no interest in increasing the license limits. We were also limited, that we could only monitor every 1 or 5 minutes. Increasing that down and bringing it down would have cost a lot more money in terms of licensing. We checked out some other options in case they might be able to fulfill what we needed, but they pretty much just had nice graphs. I found quite a few of them quite heavy and a struggle to navigate the functionality. And then again, the license tiers always seem to become a problem. So 2020, I started AGM Network Consultancy. We supported 30 sites between all of our customers. We started using Zabbix primarily for network devices, I'd say looking ping monitoring only, really up, down, none of the SNMP or looking at anything else what it could really do. Started using remote proxies, removing the reliance on the VPNs that I put in place to each site. Really wanted to get rid of those, especially for security. We allowed sites to be independently monitored and templated, and we were looking to offset the load from the Zabbix server. I was really starting to think about how big this could expand. 2022, we had over 100 sites, predominantly in engineering and energy, and I really started to focus on the fact we needed a templatable solution that could be out of the box, each site the same, day in, day out, and my target was to be able to set up and take on and set up 20 sites per month if necessary. My problems, we were still very much reactive in terms of troubleshooting. We had a lack of monitoring data prior to problems occurring, even though we had some information, and I'd probably say more than most, like MSPs out there. And we weren't able to pass on the tooling to lower level technical staff. I'd say that's both co-managed and internal members of the team. What were my wants? I wanted an affordable solution, something which I could customize the look, feel, and monitoring intervals. There are times where I want to bring it right down and be able to check something every 5 seconds or something. And it was just quite annoying that the other tools limited me on when I could do that. Again, monitoring. We wanted to go beyond SNMP at this point. So energy and engineering, Modbus, certificates, custom items. We even rolled out a couple of products ourselves where the modules didn't have the ability to present data over the network on what their status was. So we had to create custom files and then build them into items in Zabbix. So we wanted something that's a scalable solution in terms of increasing the number of devices, and then in terms of security, because we were still running off of local authentication and then LDAP. SAML was very much on the roadmap, and we'd started rolling it out across various other tools. Finally, audit logging, so both security and in terms of who did what and when. We wanted to be able to see that too. In the MSP world, I'd say we usually focus on using remote monitoring and management systems, and these are usually tools we pay for per device, and there's always a vendor lock-in. The user interfaces are nearly always very limited and limited measurement intervals. The starting cost for the 100 network devices was £2,400 for what I wanted at a base level, and that was just too much for us. And that was the lowest of 3 vendors I'd looked at other than Zabbix. We'd also had burnt fingers with other tools, so SolarWinds and Pulse Secure obviously with the largest breaches, I would say. But there were others in there where we'd had to rip out some tools for customers just to get everything back on track. Zabbix, I'd say at the time, had all of my needs covered, and the wants were in the pipeline. So SAML, the possibility of being multi-tenant, although I still avoid that at all costs, and a clear view of our future goals. A clear view of their future goals and the roadmap. If you go on the Zabbix website, you can see the features that are going to be brought out and rolled into the software. Also, again, open source, so the code can all be scrutinized. So starting with the authentication, we rolled out local authentication. We now use Office 365, falling back onto LDAP. Users added to specific Office 365 groups are automatically enrolled into the Zabbix system, so they have the correct permissions set. Also, their emails and SMS details are populated for escalations. So actions, so they're doing something. So we've got the problem, and now we want to do something after it's happened. So we mostly use the email, Teams notifications, webhooks, and scripts. Webhooks and scripts, you can pretty much do whatever you want. I mean, to any other system that's connectable over the network, you can pretty much make it do what you want after you've got that in there. If you look at the diagram on the right-hand side, this is how I visualize it and how we use Zabbix. So we've got our actions, and then we're going to go towards scripts or notifications. The most important ones I've identified down there in scripts, but we predominantly use webhooks and scripts themselves. An example I'll come back to is we reboot remote devices from these scripts that we put into Zabbix. In a couple of places, they are just scripts written on Zabbix itself. Other times, it's executing a command on another device. Then webhooks, so when we integrate with other systems, it can shoot across just to outline that something has happened. So for example, we don't use one of the built-in systems for our ticketing system. We shoot across a webhook, and it can set some values for us. Notifications, so I look at these in 2 sections. So we use emails and Teams. So emails, we built in shortcuts to basically anywhere in Zabbix that we need to be once a problem has happened. And in Teams, we use the cards. Basically, the cards are quite static at the moment, but I'm looking to get them to be automatically updated. So say that the status has changed from problem to resolved. That should also be visible in the same card that it was sent into to show the status of the problems. So creating the conditions. So here we've got a simple example of an action that's going to reboot a virtual machine when the service becomes unreachable. So we just pop in a simple name, and then I'm going to jump down to the conditions. So we've got a number of conditions here, so that it's a member of a certain group, it meets the values that it contains event name contains unreachable, and it has to be one of the two hosts labeled at the bottom, D or E. And we just go straight into the type of calculation, and you can quickly just structure in what devices you want that to apply to and what the operation needs to match for this action to go ahead. So, looking at the operation, and it's going to undertake two things. So one, send out an alert email to the alerts team, and two, run a script on the virtual host, which is what's going to cycle the virtual machine. Just to mention, just running down, if I wanted to, if the problem recovered, it could send out the alerts, it could undertake another action that you wanted it to do if it's recovered by the point this is going to be undertaken, or update operations. So for example, if an engineer's gone in there, acknowledged the problem, it could send out an email and a Teams message as well to say that someone's updated it and here's new information about the problem. Next, so pausing, so you can also undertake a number of these options at the bottom, the pause operations for symptom problems. So basically, if there's another problem that is the cause, you can stop this operation being undertaken. If the problem has been suppressed by an engineer, you can stop anything else being undertaken on this action. And also, if somebody goes in and cancels it, you can also receive information on that as well. So, the script itself. So we started using scripts and actions to automate the recovery of system services. So in this case, we had one VM which kept becoming unreachable. On the right-hand side, you can see the example script that we used to basically just very simple, quick and dirty, just to shut it down and to get it to start back up again. So we just throw in the name it something more sensible than script 1, if it's going to be meaningful to you and your engineers. You assign the scope, so we've got the action operation here, but you can also set it as a manual action, which I'll show again later in this presentation. And you've got all the types there you can set. In this case, it's a script. We chose to execute on the Zabbix agent, but as I said before, you can do it on the server or the proxy as well. And then you can see in here in the command section, just a really simple script to run on the endpoint machine, which is it's going to execute in PowerShell. It's going to stop the VM, and you can see the host name there is just a macro that's been pulled in. So any problem that's come up, it's just been pulled that name in, and the name matches the name on the virtual host. So it's going to sleep for 10 seconds and then start the virtual machine again. Going back to the email notification that's going to be sent out by the action, this is a really good way of getting to what you need to very quickly in Zabbix. So you can customize this per group or recipient, and you can jump straight into key information and data with a single click. So if you look at the hyperlinks in the email template on the right, I've got the problem ID, which will take me straight to a dashboard showing the problem in Zabbix. You've got the graphs and dashboards for the device in particular that has the issue, and that's it. So as soon as I receive that email, I can just click that, and I'm straight to the point I want to see with the device that's got the issue. And you can build one of these templates out yourself very quickly. This probably would have taken me about 10 minutes. So for recurring problems. So one of the big problems I had was trying to hand over problems from myself or a couple of the consultants to lower level engineers or to external parties. We really struggled to get across how data travels across the network or how their service works through another system. So here we've got an internet service provider issue where they had a lease line, and we could easily just diagram it out, use that as a basis to show the third-party team, and then troubleshoot from there. When the issues were happening as well, you've got the problem showing exactly where it's happening in the map. And this is all quickly creatable. As soon as you've got the device or the service in there, you can pull this information into a map very quickly and easily. So maps are also interactive. So again, you can get straight to the information you want and also the scripts and links that you want. So here we've got a FortiGate firewall, which I've clicked. At the top, you've got all the information about the firewall, where you need to go. So if you want to go to the dashboard, if you've got in the template, a nice overview of each of the, for example, FortiGate firewalls, you could say you can see the two WAN interfaces and key metrics on RAM usage or processor usage time, the latest data and graphs. But jumping down to the customizable information, so the links and scripts. So the links here, I've put links straight into the UI of the devices, and then the SSH, if you change the way that your operating system processes the link, you can open straight into a tool like Putty or whatnot and be ready to log in on that device. Scripts. So here, the problems I had were, we had one device in Hungary, and it kept dropping off on the internet connection, and we had no remote hands. I knew I could execute a script on it and get the data from the firewall itself, but I couldn't do that while it was dropping out. So within 3 seconds, it would go offline again. So we'd run a script, send it off, and then once the firewall came back online, it would send the script back to our server. Even though it was intermittent, it only needed to be work once over the hour that script was running. So that got us out of a jam pretty quickly. So dashboards. Here I'm using the dashboards to show the key link statuses. So on the right-hand side, I've got the backup links, and on the left-hand side, I've got primary links. And I can see that at some point they've changed over. And this is just one quick way you can have in a dashboard to show information that you want. You could copy this widget, you could bring in another interface quite quickly, and you've got the information that you want to see on each of the links. So another way that we use dashboards is to high-level overview of each client. So we've got one here where we've got one main site and we've got multiple offices and rooms. So the site map in the center, if we focus on that, that's got the main site overview which we're looking at now, and if we click below, we could jump straight into one of the other rooms that we've got in another map. And the key benefit here is, on the site overview map, we can't see every device. We just can't fit them all in a way that's going to be visible to everyone. If we drop down into the other buildings, so if we drop down, we can then see that we could add more devices, we have more APs, and people can have a better visualization of what's going on in each room. But the site overview is just for a high level. You can see which core switches are down and which ones are still working, and if anything's failed over. We've also got a couple of points there where we've shown the bandwidth live on the interface links. So multi-site templated layouts as well. So here we've not got the main site, and then underneath a drop down of the rooms, we've got a separate site for each of the sites here. So what this also has allowed us to do is create a template for the smaller sites where we've got, for example, 1 or 2 internet routers and then a single firewall underneath. So we can quickly just copy a map, change the devices, and that's a very quick manual way to add another site. We can also just go in to edit, add another site and another map, and that's all pretty much done within 5 minutes, just to add another one to that extension of the map. So also lower down on this same dashboard, we've got problems, which we show recent problems that have happened. So for example, in the last 15 minutes, we could see what problems have occurred and what have been resolved. And this is a great way to see if something was like restarted, if we want to jump to one site in particular, or if we've got an ongoing issue with multiple sites, because you can see the time it's happened and the recovery time. On the right-hand side, we've got the service level objectives. So for all sites here, we're looking at, did they meet their service level objective for the set period of time? So in this case, a week, and when they fell below that. You could easily do this and filter per group. So for example, on a site basis, a device basis, So it's quite flexible in terms of where you can draw in what devices you want to look at. The geomaps, that's probably the final thing that we use here in the dashboard. And it's quite useful for when you've got a large density of devices in one place. So we use it if we need to go service something manually. We look at the areas and just quickly see like which customers we have, and you can see if they've got any problems on there as well. But it's also a useful tool just to draw in on problems within a certain geographic area, especially if you're using something, for example, like LTE connections and you've got multiple sites in one area which have gone down. That for us has shown us that one provider was having an issue, for example. The inventory views. So we look at it as if there's two types. So one, the inbuilt inventory in Zabbix, which I would say is quite rigid. So it just shows you the set piece of information about the device. So host name, the name specified on the actual device, the operating system it's on, for example, the serial number. Now, I go in and create custom dashboards for each device type because sometimes there are certain pieces that I want to see slightly differently. In this case, at the bottom, I've got the routers and firewalls. So I want to see the host name, the model of the device, like package versions, so which are on target, which are to be upgraded, which ones haven't been upgraded, their status, and their uptime. So uptime is really good for when someone's called in and said they've got a problem with one of the devices, it's kept cutting out. I can quickly see the uptime of the device on the left-hand side, that host name. Again, it's interactive, so you can click in and go down to the graphs on the device to see what's happened over a period of time. And then the key information for the routers and firewalls, I've built those in, and you can see that CPU, memory, temperature, those are the key things to show when something's really going wrong, especially on the energy and engineering sites. But you could put in whatever you want here. You could pull in any value you want and make your own custom dashboard, and that's how I deal with the inventory side. So the last slide on how we're using Zabbix here is when we have problems and driving down into problems. In this instance, we had Unify APs, so this customer has more than 110, and basically the UI was showing the wrong number of connected clients. And the issue that was happening was a number of APs, which only had 2 antennas, would end up with more than 100 clients connected, and no one could do anything on the network. So we created a simple widget in the dashboard, filtered by the connected client number, so the highest is always shown, and then also filtered in on what the download and upload were. And this allowed us to quickly identify where the customer was having problems, in what areas and when, and then just say these were the causes of the issue until that firmware was fixed. Thank you.